Hi, I'm Dave. This is part of my video series where I talk about the subtle aspects of being human. What are those little things about our humanness that we kind of take for granted that we want to be able to explore and look into deeper? This series is based upon conversations that I've had with people, throughout my lifetime. And I'm just going to document little things about it all in order to frame the background so we can have deeper conversations. And this series is also going to be based around the tarot cards. And so to start with, the first thing we want to look at here is we want to look at, think about, and understand is consciousness. And consciousness is going to fit in with the first tarot card, which is the Fool. So if you go right to Google, you look up the definition, you find that consciousness is aware and responding to one's surroundings. It is awake. So it is your awareness. It is basically you're watching the video, so you're aware of the video, you're aware of what you're doing, okay, which is actively participating in the video. Now, things that you're not aware of might be, well, your digestion or your heartbeat, or what's happening outside your room or outside your sphere of perception. Okay, what's just a little bit beyond where you are right now. So consciousness, in the really simple form, it's what you're aware of. But the Fool, when we look at this particular tarot card, we're looking at the subconscious. When we look at the major arcana, it goes from subconscious to conscious. And so we're starting with the subconscious side of things. We want to look at what's the difference between conscious and subconscious. So looking up the definition of subconscious in the really simple terms, it's of or concerning the part of the mind which is not fully aware, but which influences the actions and feelings. So you're not aware of this part of the mind, but it influences your actions and feelings via the definition. So basically, if we were to expand upon that a little bit more, that subconscious are the things that you're not aware of, yet it has influences upon you. So it falls into that subtle energies realm. So, or the subtle energies of being human, because there's a lot of things that we've trained ourselves to do that we're not really aware of, like speaking. We might say things that we're not quite aware of, but they just happen. Things happen. Or you walk into an environment and something happens and you simply respond to it. You respond in a way that might be trained or subconscious. You just subconsciously reacted to the situation. So the subconscious. The subconscious is an aspect of the mind. So both the conscious and the subconscious, they're aspects of mind. So when you look deeper into the definitions, you find that they always are linked together, subconscious mind or conscious mind. So here, they put it in the mind space. Now, when I think about things, I think that there's a number of different spaces by which you can categorize things. So the mind space. So when I think of the mind space, I think of where your thoughts are located. When I think of the emotional space, I think of that as being where you experience emotions, generate, and feel them. When you come around to the physical space, this is a link to the senses and to what you tangibly interact with. So there's kind of the interaction with matter. The mind space isn't necessarily interacting with matter, but the physical space does. When you touch something, you're interacting with matter. So we have these different spaces that we're in. Now, when people think, or when people understand, a lot of the understandings that people have about consciousness, they drop it into the mind space as being something that you think about. But in the series, I'm hoping to be able to show you that this mind space is not necessarily where the consciousness lies, but it is rather in a spirit space. It's where we are. It's where we live as spirit beings is consciousness. We live in consciousness. And in that consciousness, we have realms of consciousness, which is going to be some of it's subtle and some of it's not so subtle. So, the basic idea would be, I'm going to take the stand that there is physical matter, and I'm going to consider that, I'm going to talk about that as if that physical matter is crystallized energy here in the space that we interact with. And then a step out of that would be the emotional realm, where emotions come about and we feel those emotions. So it is a non-physical level, but it's very closely tied to that, because you can look at somebody physically and see what emotions are coming out of them. You can also not look at them, but you can feel them. It's a little bit more subtle if you simply use your perception of feelings rather than using the extra energy that's located in the physical or the material crystallized matter realm, which is, where we would touch something rather than sense it through feelings. The next level would be intellectual level. It's where you're thinking, the logical mind is. A lot of times it's where the ego resides. It is where the ego resides. The ego resides in the thinking space. It's where you're going to think something out. You're going to, training that you've done is going to help you think through something, but you don't need training to be able to think through something. You can still think without having to have any training. The phase just beyond that is going to be where, is going to be a space where consciousness lives. And so that's where the spirit is. That's where we are, as in consciousness. So that's basic breakdown of it. And let's look into it a little bit more here. Let's look at it with regards to the Fool card. So when we think about this journey in life, since we're going to have a lot of different aspects we're going to talk about in the series, one of the key ones is being able to have subconscious mind take care of you. So we know through a simple definition, the subconscious mind is going to influence you. It's going to help you, okay? Now, that falls right in line with the Fool. If you understand the concept of the Fool is somebody who's kind of naive, and they basically don't know where they're going, don't know what they're doing, but they have faith and trust in what's going on. This is exactly what the subconscious does for us. It helps give us that faith, helps give us that trust, because we can just simply be, and the subconscious helps take care of us. For instance, what's taking care of your heartbeat? What takes care of your digestion? The subconscious mind already knows about all that stuff, and it just simply does it for us. It helps assist us. It's part of something that's below our awareness, and we usually don't focus on it, but it still happens. We get involved with it by making decisions and choices that influence what the digestion is going to be like, or what our heartbeat might be like, or the environment in which the heart beats. Okay? So, looking at the Fool a little bit more. The Fool is, if you think of yourself as being in the subconscious, you're not aware of what's going on around you. You're not the simple idea. If you step back and look at it from the other point of view, it's like, how could somebody be unaware when they touch something? It's obvious. You touch something, you feel it. You look at something, you see it. You smell something, it's obvious that you're smelling something. Okay, and when you smell it, your awareness has been brought to it, which basically is going to show that we have this interaction which consciousness is drawn to, things that our subconscious naturally does for us. So that subconscious area is this part of the mind that is there watching out for us. It's part of who we are. We're just not aware of it. So it's basically every step that you take, you subconsciously are going to put your foot on the ground, and you're going to sense the ground, and you're going to sense whether or not it's safe to take that step. You don't have to think about it. You've trained yourself to walk, and now the subconscious does all the little details associated with it, the subtle things that you don't need to do any longer in order to help you move along that path. Thus, the Fool is moving along that path. The Fool isn't really thinking about where he's going and what he's doing, but he's simply following along, and the subconscious mind is there to take care of the Fool. The Fool can basically has no awareness, doesn't really know how to perceive things. It can touch something, but doesn't know what it means. It can see something, but doesn't know what it's looking at. Can smell something, but doesn't know what it is. What you know from your own life experience is that when you smell something, there's ways that you can investigate it to find out what that smell was. For instance, you walk by a rose bush that's in full bloom. All these blooms are there. And thus, the Fool has a rose on it, by the way. You walk by that rose bush and you smell the rose. And the Fool, if you don't follow through on it, just is like, holy smokes, it smells amazing right here. But they don't really look any farther because they don't really bring their awareness to it. They just smell. But you, on your conscious experience, you bring your awareness to the smell. And then you might act upon that. You might take a second to understand your surroundings, look a little bit closer at it, and then go smell the rose bush. And you make an association between the roses on the rose bush putting off the smell. You might bring the rose up next to your nose to smell it, and you make that association between the smell and roses. Now, anywhere that you go in life, if you ever have encounter that same smell, it will bring up that memory from the subconscious of what it was, what it is, what your association is with it. And it's your unique experience. Nobody can tell you what a rose smells like. They can describe it with words, but until you actually smell it, you don't have any conscious understanding of what that rose smells like. So the subconscious mind, the key thing that we want to get to here is that the subconscious mind is subtle energy. It is there always around you. It is always working to influence you. When you, since it's mind space, it doesn't, you can interact with it as if you would with any other thing in the mind space. So typically in the mind space, you might think about doing a calculation. 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, it's a logical progression. It's something that you base understandings on. And so you can put things together to get a logical conclusion, or you can simply think about something. You can toss over ideas in your head, okay, part of the mind space. You get to do that, okay? So now the subconscious mind, your conscious activity is something that the subconscious mind can do too. It is one and the same thing. So the subconscious mind can be doing calculations for you. It can be doing additions and subtractions for you. It can already know what the answer is. If you've done the multiplication table 1,000 times, it may be that you train the subconscious. It knows exactly what 8 × 8 is. You don't have to think about it. You just know what it is. So the subconscious mind has the idea that once you have the experience, it becomes a knowing. That experience becomes a knowing. And what's interesting about that is that what's different is that when two people converse, they have a conversation. One person tells somebody else something. It's not the same as having the actual experience. When you experience it, you know without a shadow of a doubt what the association is, particularly if you experience that in a way that entailed your full conscious awareness. When you took the time to investigate that rosebush, you put conscious awareness into it and you looked into it deeply to find out what is this all about. And what you did, it's unmistakably known to you. It's your experience. Somebody else might have come along and said, I smell this. And they didn't really care and they moved on because they weren't interested in figuring out where that smell came from. And so throughout their lifetime, they may smell that and they have no real association with what it is. They just say, yeah, it smells like this sometimes. And they move on. They haven't brought their awareness to it to really see what it's all about. And so the key thing here is that the subconscious mind is here and ever present. It's going to have knowings that are based upon your experience, which brings us back around to the Fool card. And so when you think about the Fool card is approaching life from really not having any experience. There's no experience with the Fool. The Fool just steps onto the stage. The Fool doesn't know that life is something to go investigate. The Fool is just here. And the fool needs to be able to go start his path, start to go on his journey to go find out what's going on. But the fool itself can. The fool comes with innate understandings, that innate knowing that the subconscious is there, and that when we bring our awareness to things, we enhance our experience by understanding it better. We experience things. So the fool is what takes us onto our path to experience stuff in our lifetime. So I'll leave it there as the first part of the consciousness stuff, because ultimately what it comes around to is that fool has stepped onto the stage. The fool is not the mind, but the fool has that innate knowing that comes from how the mind interacts and how you get stuff out of the mind, how we interact with the mind. And it'll take it farther into our actual experiences, because here we are, we're spirit in matter, we have physical matter, we can move matter. And so I'll leave it there, and we'll look into the magician on the next time around, and we'll look and see how the magician deals with consciousness. Before you go, like and comment so other people can find this content too. If you think you might be coming back, feel free to subscribe. I don't put out a lot of content, and you'll be able to easily find my channel again. Also, don't forget about the website. It is a tool for you. Registering and logging in is free, and it gets you all the information about all of my cards. Or if you're feeling courageous, maybe even purchase a tarot card reading. When I do readings, I basically will have you on the phone, record you, and we'll go through this process. It usually lasts about an hour, and we'll get into subconscious answers for your questions. Another way of helping me out is to share one of my videos on your social media. Any way that you can get my information out so that it can help more people, because the information is already there. Another way you can support me is to buy my children's book, A Loving Saint, Sai Baba. I was the illustrator. I work with Arthi as the author on this book. You can find it on Amazon. And thank you for the support. May these videos find you happy and healthy.